Hello and welcome to anyone that's out there that knows me. Hi, thank you very much for tuning in. And to anyone that doesn't, hello, my name's Max. I think some of my family are watching, so I'd just like to say hello to those and thanks for tuning in. So yeah, whenever I gave a similar talk to this on the winter retreat this year, the one just gone. And the title of that was "Why Am I a Buddhist?" And whenever I get asked to do a talk like this, I find it really difficult to write. I just think I've no idea. You know, I get this question like, "Why am I a Buddhist?" And I just think I have no idea, or what does the Buddha mean to me? And it's very hard to articulate. I've got a real sense of what it means to me, and it almost feels like it's this thing that's pulling me in a certain direction that I'm definitely moving towards, but then to actually concretize it into words is very difficult. So I just wanted to start with that, really. And at the last talk on the winter retreat, Jana Varcher said afterwards that he thought it was a talk about looking up to people. I'd mentioned a few people that were very important to me in my life in that talk. And that's what he said came to the forefront, was that I'd looked up to people. So when I was considering the answer to this question, what Buddhism means to me, I was really thinking about that, and I thought, well, I've always looked up to something in my life, and that's either been people or it's been ideas. And yeah, throughout my life, I've looked up to different people and different things. And now it's come to the point where, as much as I can, I'm looking up to Buddhism and to the Buddha and to the people, around this community that embody that. And so in this talk, what I wanted to do was just take you through the people that I've looked up to through my life, the ideas that I've looked up to through my life, why they've been important to me, and why it is now that I've come to this, as it were. So just a bit of background for me. I was born in Bolton, up north. I have a twin brother called Joe, who I think is watching. Hi, Joe. And I feel quite lucky. I was born into a really supportive family, and they were always very supportive and very, very encouraging of me, very encouraging in things that I wanted to pursue. I feel like I'm really testing that now that I'm online and I've asked for ordination to a Buddhist order, and I'm giving a talk on what the Buddha means to me. So hopefully they still are encouraging. I'm really putting that to the test. I'll call you later and see what you think. And there was just something from my early life that I felt it really appropriate to mention. And that was, well, I looked up to a lot of members of my family in general, but definitely I looked up to my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. And it's a really small thing, but I just remember one day I was sat in the lounge and I'd eaten some food, and I was sat in front of the TV, looking up at the TV. And my grandma came in and just said, "Oh, just let me take your plate for you." She took my plate. And I don't know why, I think my grandma had done things like that loads, but I was really moved by it. There was absolutely no need for my grandma to do that. Normally, she probably would have told me to come and clear my own plate and wash it up and try and teach me, a bit of responsibility. There was nothing particularly meaningful about it, but it was something that she didn't need to do. She'd just done it because she wanted to. She wanted to do something nice for me. And it really moved me. And I remember from that point on, I had a very, very different attitude towards my grandma. I saw her as someone that was really loving, and it softened the relationship between me and her. Not that it was hard before, but I often think about our relationship now and remember that as a turning point in it. And I don't really know why I wanted to mention that, other than it was the first clear memory that I have of completely unnecessary, as it were, kindness that wasn't asking for anything back in return, kindness that had nothing to do with, anything but the fact she wanted to be kind to me. And it really sort of imprinted on me. And obviously a lot of Buddhism is to do with compassion. And I think that's one of the seeds in my early life, about wanting to sort of follow that theme through my life. So in my life then, I've always felt like I've been sort of questing for something and sort of wanting something more than just an average job and 9 to 5 with a wife and kids. And the first time that sort of quest really broke into my life, I never knew what I wanted it to be, but I always had a sense that I wanted something more. And the first concrete time that I remember getting a sense of what that more could be was when I was 14 and I met my drama teacher at high school, who's called Catherine Smith, but to me she's called Miss Smith. I find it very, very strange to call her Catherine. I spoke to her on the phone a couple of days ago and I used her name for the first time and I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? I felt like I'd really done something naughty. And yeah, she was definitely this first person that outside of my family that I'd really looked up to. I remember I did this play with her, and on the opening night, she gave me a box with like a necktie in it, which was like a part of the costume. And on the inside of the top of this box, she wrote this quote that's like really affected me. So she was the person that I was looking up to, and the quote was the idea that I was looking up to. And I've always remembered it. It used to be, and you remember in Facebook, they had those little boxes of you could put your like motto. And so when I was 14, this was my motto in my Facebook box. And it goes like this. It's a very short quote. It says, be daring, be different, be impractical, but be anything that will assert integrity of purpose or imaginative vision against the play it safers. And that definitely that really spoke to me about this quest of wanting more, you know, and I felt like the work that we did together when I was just 14 to 16, on the, you know, in this sort of theatrical context, started to excite me and pull me out of this like mundane projection of what my life could be, of just like a normal job, and start to actually wake my energies up to something more, you know. And there's just so much in that quote, like to be daring and to be different was sort of was telling me to be courageous and creative, and to dare to be something other than like what everyone else seemed to be doing. And to have integrity of purpose was to actually figure out what the hell your purpose was, and then to have integrity about it, you know. And I just thought, I don't even know what my purpose is. And then also to have imaginative vision, you know, to be able to have a big enough vision of what my life could be, was like a really inspiring thing. And all of this was basically around, it was around theatre. And for the most part, it just concerned, how do we put a play on that's daring and different? I had no sort of application to my life yet. Then I continued that thread and I went to drama school. And in drama school, I had another teacher that I really looked up to called James Kerr. And he was this like very mystical, like devout Catholic man. And he would come out with things like, you know, I was looking at a flower the other day and I thought, it's like acting. it would be like, okay, like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds just waiting to like, you know, do some acting exercise, and we were having to like take apart this koan. But he said some really, really great things. And one of them was, when you're acting, it has to be realer than real life. That's what he was saying. What you put on stage has to be realer than real life. And that fed into this quest again. That was something that I could look up to, was a search for, at least when I was on stage, to be realer than real life. And he also said, when you say something on stage, it has to mean that that's who you are. You know, in real life, you can say things, they don't necessarily mean that's anything about you, but on stage, it has to mean that that's who you are. And they were two really, really big things that sunk in for me. Sort of that I wanted to live my life by. It's why I liked the theatre so much, was because, you know, I was a bit disappointed with real life and wanted something realer. And when I say realer, I meant like more exciting, more honest, more courageous, more heroic, more colourful. And that's basically why I was interested in theatre. And so then I set up my own company, and I sort of really enjoyed that for a year or so, and I did a play with one of my favorite playwrights, and it was all going really well, and I sort of was living out this quest for this theatrical meaning, as it were. But on the other side of that, in the rest of my life, it was quite a different story. I'd struggled a lot at drama school, and I was taking a lot of drugs and drinking a lot, partly because also, I wanted to live out this daring and courageous life, and in a confused young haze, that was the thing to do. That was the way to do it. That was the way to get this zing of excitement and color. It was also partly because I felt that a little bit inadequate at drama school. I found it very, very difficult and very, very challenging to be around so many talented people and constantly comparing myself to them, feeling like I was coming up short. And, drink and drugs were a way out of it, basically. I was also acting quite unethically. I wasn't faithful to quite a lot of my romantic partners. And I'd just gone through quite a difficult breakup. So it was very interesting that on the one hand, I was searching for this courage and truth and meaning in the plays that I was doing and getting excited by that. But actually, I'd sort of compartmentalized that. And in my life, I was hardly living up to those values at all. And that's where Buddhism came in, and I don't think I've got much more time, but what I will say about Buddhism is that coming across it really it sort of turned my attention away from trying to be heroic and pursue this quest on stage or through a proxy through theatre, and actually just make me have a look at that quest in my actual life. Part of the excitement about doing a play, and I moved to directing when I left drama school, and part of the excitement about directing a play is feeling that you're affecting people and that you're doing something for the audience that are watching it. You're moving them and you're helping actually touch their lives in a positive way and help them understand something better. And it was just very ironic that I was trying to do that in the theatre, and then in my life I was hurting people and not telling the truth and making people's lives more difficult to live. And yeah, basically, when I think about what the Buddha means to me, it's very abstract, and actually why I found this talk quite difficult to write. But when it becomes very, very easy is when I think about what my Buddhist friends mean to me, what my spiritual friends mean to me, what my teachers here mean to me, and what the people in the Sangha mean to me. Because all they mean to me really is I just have this image of them like taking my shoulders. They don't actually do this, but taking my shoulders and just turning me to look at my life and saying, that's what you've got to go down, and that's what you've got to work on. Do you see that you need to be more courageous here? Do you see that you need to try and be more truthful here? Do you see that you can be more heroic, as it were, in your actual life? And that's so much more of a satisfying and fulfilling way to live. And so I just want to finish with this, is that when I think about the Buddha, I didn't really like this when I first came here. This figure, I thought, I came in and I'd bring a friend sometimes and I'd say, don't worry, I like meditation, but I'm not Buddhist. And on Mondays, they have Dharma night, and they do these things called the refuges and precepts before, which are in Pali or Sanskrit, I can't remember which. And it's very Buddhist sounding. And I'd always forget that on Monday nights they did this. And I'd bring my friend on Monday and I'd go, don't worry, it's quite secular here. And then they'd all do these refuges and precepts. And I'd be so embarrassed. I'd be like, oh no. So I was like really averse to the Buddhist thing. But now, now when I look at this, what the Buddha means to me really is something that's big enough to hold all of me and my life, basically. It feels like the people, my spiritual friends, want me to bring all of me in. When you're a director, when I'm directing, it wants this side of me, but not that side of me. When I'm, a lover, it demands this side of me and not that side of me. When I'm, I don't know, a son or a brother, I can feel it demanding this side and not that. And perhaps that's some of my own shortcomings. But what Buddhism means to me, and this figure means to me, is actually like an open, a sort of gesture to bring all of me, or as much of me as I can manage now, into it. And yeah, that's what the Buddha means to me.